Hey y'all, this is going to be my first video for PoE Affliction League, and I haven't been really playing PoE nearly as much as I normally do on league starts, but I still have a decent bit of progress, and I kind of wanted to share my league start as well as my strategy for currency and softcore and how I'm continuing to progress through this league. And so my first takes on this league and the Affliction mechanic, I want to say, is that it makes maps very, very difficult to clear sometimes. Like, stuff is just really tanky. It's not the fact that I'm dying in these maps because I'm not having too much of an issue. I hit 98, um, playing pretty, poorly, and it's this build is tanky enough to be able to just clear the maps, no issue. However, the time it takes to clear them is where the problem lies. So this is TR Pathfinder, very stereotypical. I took Zizaran setup because I've never seen it linked with Frenzy. That is Frenzy on Mana for arrows, and it gives a little bit of extra single target damage, which I thought this build needed. But I was also playing with Caustic Arrows, like a queer setup with like Arrow Nova with Mana Forge. Either way, I can say that this build is definitely not gonna be able to clear anything beyond like tier 16 maps, like running a Wandering Path. So as such, I'm moving on to a different build. So where it's at right now, this build has around 8 million DPS with 7 stacks of Wither. And beyond that, it's gonna hit at most like 12 mil if I hit all my Wither stacks and everything lines up perfectly, which usually doesn't happen because it's TR and enemies move. But another thing is that it has 80k HP, which is very tanky for builds that I usually play. And this build is honestly pretty unkillable. I'm able to tank Shaper Slam. I'm able to tank most of the invitation bullshit that they can throw at you. So it's a really nice league starter build. It is really rough on your mouse wrist, so do be aware of that. If you cast TR with your mouse, you're going to be spamming it a lot. But I picked Pathfinder because my left hand is currently not in commission. I broke it in a mixed martial arts fight, and so it's a build that's allowed me to kind of play the game without having to strain my left hand at all. And I really want my left arm to heal properly, so here we are on Pathfinder. And my next build is also going to be on Pathfinder, and I will have a video about that build when I get it up and running. But first and foremost, I want to kind of talk about the strategies here. So I am currently running formed invitations and just spamming the crap out of them with destructive play. I did this last league, and honestly, waiting for stuff to spawn on our Kali build was really, really bad because sometimes my spiders would just kill stuff. So as such, you want to run the Sextant to give them more life. But now they fixed it to where destructive play is going to spawn them regardless, so it's not too much of a worry anymore. It actually feels really smooth. I can usually do a full set in around 7 to 8 minutes, depending on how focused I am. And of course, I'm getting a lot of like different maps from it, Conqueror maps, Shaper Guardian, Elder Guardian maps, and all that. And it's a really good strategy for raw currency. Even with like a slower setup, you're making around like 4 to 5 divs baseline currency, not including like these extra map drops. And that's really nice. Um, and this originally was done, like the currency I made beforehand was done through Harvest, just to like build up enough to buy invitations and stuff. But you can honestly like self-sustain this entire strategy if you're using the Shaper's Guardian Sextants. Now the prices of these are going up as I expected, and they're going to keep going up until formed probably hit around like 0.8 div. And at that point, the profit's a lot less because it's kind of gauged towards Maven invitation prices. And at the end of the day, like any currency strategy only has so much before the next thing comes and takes over as far as being valuable. And formed is something that just is much better early on because the invitations are a lot cheaper. But either way, that's how I made most of my currency. I'm not going to be going for Mage Blood this league. And the only reason for that is because I really want to just play this one character and focus on min-maxing my next build. And this next build is going to be a lot of fun and a little bit more unique, I think, than usual, because I've been playing a lot of meta stuff. Progression for TR Pathfinder is really easy, and that's why I picked it. It's really smooth, and it's all self-crafted and deterministic. I'm running a Lightning Coil setup with Taste of Hate, so it's really like tanky because of that. And I also have a lot of like evasion just from gear. The bow is super easy to craft. It costs 5 raw divs plus whatever else you need to like slam and alt spam it. But this is a very easy bow to craft. I think everybody who wants to play TR should craft their own bow, unless the prices drop below that. But even so, it's an experience. And hey, you might hit T1 Chaos Dot. Chaos Dot. Um, And the rest of the gear is really stereotypical. I mean, the quiver is like something that I just hit randomly. Ideally, it would have double dot multi, but it is what it is. Same with the amulet. All this stuff can be crafted on its own. One thing I would like to mention is the charms are actually really cool, and they're going to be a pretty integral part in my next build. Um, Currently, I'm just running Culling Strike Suppression, Chill, and Curses, which makes us even tankier, and the Curses just helping for damage. And this gives us a lot more flash because we are chilling nearby, and also just Withered effect, which for Pathfinder and Chaos builds is very powerful. And that's been pretty good. Cluster Jewels, obviously, are something that is going to spike up your damage by a decent bit, usually around 20%, so do keep an eye on those. They help a lot with Flask uptime as well if you are playing Pathfinder. I think like Toxic Rain has a really, really good like floor in terms of power, but also a really low ceiling for power, unless you're playing like some weird variation like Trickster. But I think you're actually better off for damage scaling to pick Poison Scourge Arrow or Caustic Arrow, whatever else. Yeah, I don't think this build is very good for scaling into like late game bosses, so I would highly recommend you pivot after you farm up enough currency to move on to your next build. And the nice thing about Pathfinder and like Chaos builds is a lot of the gear is actually going to transition over, and that's exactly what's happening with me. So I'm going to be able to like save myself a lot of hassle having to sell my old gear. But yeah, until next time, good luck in Raid Quest.